Gently. The next step is just looking at the horizon line through here. So using the sharp edge of the pastel here, just drift along. Horizontal movements, not the tip, but the long edge. Just move it that way, and then go up and down, just slightly along that edge. Just to define that hill in the distance. Now, you can then smudge it in with your finger, or use a cleaned shaper tool, not one that's got green in it from earlier. So a clean shaper tool, just run along that edge in circular movements without touching the nice line that's made for the hill there. But further along it's much more hazy, so I'll just drift along just lightly there and deliberately overlap the hill top a little bit and just soften that in, so just sense of it fading out into that sort of foggy area there. Now this same colour here, which is a pale lilac colour, I'm going to just use that just to create a little bit of movement through here. Just drift along there and through here, just to give it a bit more energy there, and also use the same colour over here just to add a little bit of mistiness over here that's a similar colour to here, just to tie things together slightly. I might even use a bit just down here just to dab along this area here. So again, a similar idea to dabbing in any strong colour, because it's quite a bold pale colour. I'm going to just drift along here and just dab at it a bit and add a few bits of mistiness to the valley in the distance there. Up through here. Right, now notice also there's a slight glimmer of a sort of the same colour as here, up here, just a very slight glimmer. So I'm going to use a little bit of that very strong yellow green, and just so you can see it's quite bold there, and just dab a bit in there, just a little hint in the distance there, and just soften that in as well. So even a tiny amount is quite distinct there, just stands out against that. You don't want too much, you want to just pull everything together so everything's not in separate sections. Right, so the next thing to tackle then is these light beams coming down through here. So you need a very good quality pastel for this. I'm using a Unison white pastel, or as white as they come really, and also a Sennelier white pastel. I'm just going to use quite firm movements there, and as I use it I'm pressing really quite hard and bits are breaking off it, and I'm going to deliberately get a few speckles of white with some tiny bits and just sprinkle on a bit of that white all over that area along that bank of cloud there, and I'm going to use it to pull down into this area here. Now for this bit here, what I'm going to do is use the very flat base of my thumb there and just firmly pull right through that once. Okay, don't do it loads of times, don't go up and down, just do one movement firmly through. And it just drags those bits of pastel through, and the white pastel I put on earlier, and just creates these lovely beams of light coming through. That's one of the last things you do. You don't want to be doing this and deciding you need some more dark cloud behind it, or you need some more stuff on the hills. It has to be one of the last things you do, because you can't go back. You can obviously take it off again if it's gone wrong, you've gone the wrong direction or something's not quite right, you think, oh dear. You get an old bristle brush. Here we go, an example, very ancient bristle brush, goodness knows, about 40 years old probably, and just drift along here and just take it all off again, and just smooth it down, and then scatter again and put some white on, and again pull through. Now where it reaches into the sort of hills behind here and stuff, I need to just soften this in, so I'm going to just use my thumb and just drift along there and use some of that earlier lilac colour and just take it back up into those beams a little bit. So it's not a separate tone completely, just drift back up into it slightly. And the same through here where it hits over the hill here. I'm just going to add a bit more of this pale lilac through there. So it's almost fading out in terms of the colour, but also in terms of the texture. So it's becoming less defined as it gets down towards the ground. And it's also changing tone slightly and becoming more muted and less bright. So just blur that along there, and if it overlaps something you don't want it to, like the edge of my trees there, my lovely tree line, I can just use my shaper, the very corner tip of it, which is why these flat wedges are such a good shaper, because you can use the edges, the sharp bit and so on. I can just drift up along there. Tuck up into that. Okay, so you can see I'm getting covered in white. You can see why my hands are so dry from using the pastels, but I have some nice expensive hand cream I'm almost out of, unfortunately, but I need to get some more. But you definitely do suffer from dry skin when you're a pastelist sometimes, I'm afraid. Suffer for your art, as they say. So I'm just drifting that along behind those trees there carefully, and then I'm going to use some of that pale purple just to fade it out a bit through here, so the light comes up over that cloud just slightly there, and a bit here. Just use up and down movements there just to soften that in, so it doesn't completely on its own, nothing else happening. So you can see you get quite nice strong gleams of light. Now what you can do if you need to is you can redo that, so you can go back in with your pastel, you can draw another block of white along where you want it to start, and then just go again, go through. You can also use the white or any other colour you want to use for this and just go along the bottom and take your thumb or something and push it back up the way. So it needn't always be down the way, you can go both directions. You can even put a bit more on now and join it up if you wanted to. And I think for me that's probably enough, but you know, make your own judgment on that. So I'm going to use white also though, just to go up into here where this cloud is very pale, and just soften all that in there. And the same for adding some pale just through to this bit here. Just want to add a bit of movement to that edge of that cloud there, suggesting an edge of the cloud, just swirling around a little bit there and just moving that about. So it's not looking like the only dynamic piece of the piece is here. You want it to be some interesting movement through here. So I'm going to use a bit of that, this time a firmer white, so it's not quite as crumbly, and just drift over there and just move that around through there. So I'm just going to keep my movements loose now, so these final marks and gestures add energy to the piece. You don't want the final bits to be very static, so you want to keep it moving. So any final steps could be things like going back up to here and just defining that edge again, so bringing that more precision back to here. And then including a bit more blue further along and a bit more edge on the cloud. So take it as far as you want to take it, but bear in mind that this area up here isn't the focal point. Really the focal point is coming down through here and these beams of light and then coming along this light through here. So it's really trying to pull the eye through the piece this way. So don't get yourself focused on something over here, that's not really important. Keep your focus through here and down here. Right, I might just take a bit of that light through that hill line there, just to drift that over a little bit, to soften that through. Okay. What I'm going to do finally now is put a little bit of light down through here. Obviously got these beams of light here and it's quite bright through here, so I need to just put a bit more light through these fields here. So I've got quite a pale yellow tone here, which is this one here. I'm going to put a little bit of light through here just to catch the edge of that field behind there. This is why shapers are so good. You can just use it just to control what you're getting hold of there. Just pick up some of those edges just there. And then a little bit more light just along here. Just pick that up slightly there. then a very pale green, similar idea. Now use the shaper just to slice into that. So at this angle it will take it off but also push it in depending on how I tip it and tilt it. That's taking it off. Very upright. Flat, keeping it in there, pulling it along. It's just suggesting some light and distance there. And again behind this tree here, a little bit more light just in here. So I'm twiddling now little details really. Just something to always be worried about, isn't it really? Because you don't want to overdo it to the point where you lose that nice energy to the piece. I just want to get a bit more light in the distance there, just to pull yourself, to make sense of this light here behind all this. A little bit of light behind these trees here, just behind that tree line, coming down there, dipping up and down a little bit. And just circular movements just to fade that out. And up and down just to link it in terms of the feel towards those beams of light. So I'm just softening really behind this area. I'm going to use a lilac for this and just again the same sort of thing here, just cut in behind there. Just nibbling those edges there to make a bit more defined edge where those trees are and get some more interest out of those shades. We're not using white here, using very pale lilac. These are just finishing touches really, and it's completely at your own discretion. Sometimes it's probably best to leave these sort of things to the next day, but you can sort of come back and look again and think, okay, let's leave it, or let's add this, or take away that. Because occasionally you can make a misjudgment at this point when you're almost done, can't you? And just overdo it slightly, overplay your hand a little bit. We've all done that, haven't we? A bit more light through here and just some horizontal, some diagonal marks through there just to show that there. Right. I'm still wondering if I should blur that a bit more through here, slightly. But then if I do that too much, I can't blur it behind these trees. So it's a balancing act. So I might actually bring up the horizon again a little bit there, just define that slightly there. Use that line of lilac there, just. There we go, let's make a nice little edge shape there as well, I quite like that. Get a lot of those little sharp edges on the hills where it just drops away rather than curves down. Right, okay, so I think the piece is at the stage now where it's a question of look at it tomorrow and make a decision about what else needs doing and how far to take it. What I've done there is hopefully taking you through how a very subtle picture, as you can see here, subtle, can end up involving a huge amount of colour, surprisingly more colour than some of those seascapes or dramatic sort of sunset pictures do, because it's all about these lovely varieties of shades of purples and blues and lilacs and ochres and creams and greens, and there's quite a lot of different colours going on, so it's quite a rich piece in terms of the variety of tones whilst being quite subtle in terms of the overall outcome. Now having looked at that again, I think immediately I need a bit more dark up here. Now what I would say, a good tip as far as I'm concerned, is if you're not sure about what to do next with something, first of all obviously stop, always stop, but either come back to it the next day, or if you can, take a photograph on your phone and just look at it on the phone I think I find immediately by placing the image in a different context, my brain sees it freshly immediately. So at this point I'm at now, what I should be doing, and I will be doing in a moment, is photographing on my phone, and I'll see immediately any problems that there are with it. And anything leaps out and think, well, that's not quite right. Or that's fine, or I'll leave it for now. But I find just reframing it in that way is very useful as a tool these days. It does work really well. Right, that's probably enough dark there. So what I feel at the moment, I'm quite happy with the beams of light. I'm happy with these edges and the misty valleys. I'm not terribly happy with the front bit here, but I might work on that tomorrow. I'm not happy with this blue here. I don't know whether I need it. I'm tempted to. It balances the green a bit, but not that much. Is it the wrong shade of blue? I'm not entirely sure. So I might work on either pushing the white up more into it, like it is here, to break this up a bit. I mean, it's what you see in the photograph, but does it work compositionally on here? I'm not sure yet. And that's something for thinking about tomorrow. But these are the sort of things to bear in mind when you're doing your artwork, not just faithfully copying the picture, but making a judgment call and thinking, well, okay, not sure that's quite right. Let's add a bit more pale on that. So I'm going to just try that for now, and let's put a bit more white cloud up into there. Just drift it along a little bit. I don't think I want to lose it entirely. But let's drift along a little bit. Let's soften it in a bit. And see how we feel about that. Yeah, I prefer it like that, I think, indeed. Okay, so that's hopefully given you a good introduction to working with just grey clouds and working with beams of light, or, you know, rain effects. So it can be whatever colour it is, drifting along and then pulling it through, and then how to create some nice foreground, middle ground and background areas with the landscape below. Thank you for watching, and more information is on my website at sandraorme.com. If you're already there and you're watching this, well, thank you very much for subscribing. I appreciate your support during these difficult times, and I hope you'll enjoy spending some time at home creating some beautiful pastel pictures. And please do let me know your results and email them to me, and I'm happy to have a look and discuss ways forward or how you feel about things and so on and so forth. So this has been Unison Pastels in the main, a little bit of Snellier white, but Unison Pastels on Clairefontaine Pastel Matte, creating a lovely grey cloud with misty rain over the landscape.